Good evening. Good evening, and thank you for being here. I'm Paula Eggleston, and I'm your League of Women Voters moderator for this forum. It features candidates for the office of Rock Hill Mayor. This candidate forum is co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters of York County and the Disability Rights South Carolina. It is being live streamed on the Disability Rights South Carolina Facebook page and will be available there for viewing. Forum recordings will also be available at www.lwvyorksc.org. That is the League's website, and at www.drsc.org, Disability Rights South Carolina website. Both groups co-sponsoring this candidate meeting or this candidate forum are nonpartisan, and this is a nonpartisan event. Now, a few words from the sponsoring organization. First, League of Women Voters, York County introduction.
Good evening. I am Karen Woods, co-president of the League of Women Voters of York County. One of the primary goals of the League of Women Voters is to provide people with the tools to be informed voters. Candidate forums are a key way to let you meet the candidates. We are glad you've taken the time to be active and informed voters by logging into this forum. We welcome the candidates, our co-sponsors, and our members of the community, and we look forward to engaging in more events like this in the future. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Erin Hare. On behalf of Disability Rights South Carolina, I would like to welcome you to our 2021 candidate forums. First of all, I would like to thank our partners at the League of Women Voters, both in York County and statewide, for all their efforts in making this event happen. Many thanks also go to our funders at the National Disability Rights Network for their continued support. I also would like to thank the candidates tonight for their participation and engagement on these important issues. We are here tonight to highlight the importance of local elections, so the biggest thanks of all goes to those of you who are here tonight participating by attending and submitting questions for consideration. I know we're all looking forward to hearing the candidates talk about these issues, so I will let our moderator take it away.
Thank you, Erin. On October 19th, voters will choose a candidate to fill the office of the Rock Hill Mayor. These are the candidates: John Geddes, Ishmael Lowry, and Bump Roddy. The candidates are listed in alphabetical order by last name, and each candidate will have 60 seconds for introductory statements. I will then ask questions from Disability Rights South Carolina and the League of Women Voters of York County that were submitted in advance. No questions will be asked that are directed to only one candidate or of a personal nature. Candidates have up to 2 minutes, 120 seconds to respond to questions. Candidates, you do not have to use up all of this time if you don't need to. Each candidate will have 60 seconds for a closing statement in reverse candidate order from the introductory statements. We ask that candidates use closing statements to summarize the issues they have already discussed and their vision for the position that they seek. Our timekeeper, Candy Showalter, will signal candidates when they have 30 seconds remaining and when their time is up. We will now begin with 60-second introductory remarks. First, John Geddes.
Good evening, and thank you, Paula. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and to engage in a conversation about where our community has come from and where it's going, I think, over the next 4 years. It's been my pleasure to be the mayor of Rock Hill over the last 4 years. So 4 years where we've seen multiple job opportunities open up, where we've seen electric costs come down, where we've seen our fiscal position strengthen, where we've seen new development come with the Carolina Panthers coming to Rock Hill, and now with our efforts to create a TIF district on the south side of Rock Hill so that we can take the benefits we're seeing from our growth and our planning and our financial management so that it applies to all of our people. As mayor, my goal is to continue to enhance the livability of our community, whether it be in the continued booming of downtown in the Knowledge Park area, whether it be in working to create more parks and better parks for all of our people, whether it be to see the development that's going to come along I-77 to create a tax revenue base to, oh, excuse me, I have to stop.
Okay, thank you. Now, Mr. Ishmael Lowry will give his introductory remarks.
Hey, thank you so much for this great opportunity. My name is Ishmael Lowry, and for my campaign is fighting for the bedrock of our community. While Rock Hill is growing, I fear that the infrastructure is not ready for this type of growth, and I fear that our families are going to get left behind as well, especially the ones that are disenfranchised. And so we're here to fight for the family and also take a look at our community. I was a single father, and he was a truck driver as well. But he made sure that I had great examples and people that were around me. It truly takes a village, law enforcement, representatives from the city, the community, faith-based organizations in order to surround our community, and as well as law enforcement. Once again, law enforcement is one of the most important pieces to our community. We have to support them. We have to get behind them, especially with the growth that we have in our city. So thank you.
Thank you. And now Bump Roddy.
Oh, unmute. Oh, here we go. I think I've had to unmute. Councilman William Bump Roddy, born and raised here in Rock Hill, South Carolina. I attended public schools here, attended also York Technical College, as well as Winthrop University, where I obtained my bachelor's degree in economics. Currently work at a company formerly known as Bowater. We go by New Indy now. I've been there and been employed for the last 24 years. I'm married with 2 children. I enjoy being on county council. I enjoy the political arena, and I want to bring my talents back home to the city of Rock Hill to bring some more fiscal stability and continue the growth, as well as enhancing the living on the south side for our unfortunate, overlooked, and left out residents. I look forward to working with our city staff and current management.
Thank you. We're going to move to the questions now. And our first question, and this will be the order of, as you know, we're going to switch up the order as we move through the questions, but the order for this particular question will be John Geddes, Ishmael Lowry, and Bump Roddy. If elected mayor of a city of approximately 73,000 citizens, how will your leadership represent the whole of Rock Hill versus interest groups? And remember that you have 2 minutes to respond to this question.
Well, thank you. Great question. You know, the difference between me as a candidate and the other 2 is that I have been mayor for the last 4 years. And I have shown how we continue to bring and have brought under my leadership more factions of our community together so that the people are actually speaking. We did this in many different ways. The one way that I'm proudest of is when we were named an All-American City in 2019. When we accepted the award, the presenter of that award for the National League of Cities said that Rock Hill is a community where all people work together. And I'm very proud of that we're known for that, and that we've seen it in both the Knowledge Park Action Plan that has put downtown Rock Hill on a booming trajectory. When it comes to looking at creating a citizens review board, which we're the only city, the only political subdivision in York County that has done that, so that all of our people feel that there will be more transparency than in the past. That we see in the creation of so many other different things that we're doing in Rock Hill, like Mayoral bus system, so that all people can get on a fare-free bus, all electric, and get to grocery stores or get to doctor's appointments or get to a job where they couldn't have before. where we continue to bring people together to talk about a new park that we're going to build over in the Heckle Boulevard area. That'll be a regional park. And by doing that, what we're doing first is hiring a consultant to sit down with the people of that community to talk about how they want it to fit in and amongst the neighborhoods. Very similar to the Clinton Connection Plan, which we've done on the south side, where we had a group of people from the south side of Rock Hill sit around a table and talk about what they want the south side to look like so that it better reflects all of Rock Hill. You see, these are the kinds of things as a mayor that I've worked on, not just in identifying problems, but finding answers for these. In fact, on the South Side redevelopment plan, it's not enough to say we need to do more. Anybody can do that. We have to find a funding source, which is what I've done.
Okay, thank you. Our next candidate will respond to this question. If elected mayor of a city of approximately 73,000 citizens, how will your leadership represent the whole of Rock Hill versus interest groups? And that's Ishmael Lowry. If you would respond, please.
So much, and I apologize if there's a little lag. I heard a little lag in the video there, but it is, once again, it is about a village, and I believe in having leagues in pretty much every neighborhood in our city, and that league will consist law enforcement, residents as well, and also community leaders, those who deal with the likes of redirecting the lives of children, finances, teaching financial literacy. And so these leagues will be pocketed in each neighborhood. That way you have representation that lives where they are. And so people aren't making decisions from other sides of town. They're making decisions for the actual community that they live in. And so these community leagues will be formed as nonprofits. That way you have people having a seat at the table to make decisions. City council, I believe that city council needs to have a requirement to go and do, you have state of the ward addresses, have community service time that they go to each ward and serve their community, speak to the citizens of the community, talk about the finances of the city, not keep it as kind of locked in or information that someone has to go jump through hoops to find. Talk about our law enforcement, talk about the state of the crime in our city. Be very transparent. I believe that's very important. Information is power. And I just believe right now we don't have the information that we need for that type of transparency. And so once again, yes, as a mayor, I believe in going a circuit and getting behind faith-based organizations, just going to our community centers and speaking to people one-on-one, and being accessible. I think that's very important as well, because if you talk about people having a seat at the table, our servant officials or governing officials, whether the city, that's mayor, need to be accessible more than just during city council meetings. And so I believe that is very important as being a mayor of this great town.
Okay, thank you. And Bump Roddy, the question, city of 73,000, how will your leadership represent the whole of Rock Hill rather than interest groups?
Thank you, and great question. As Rock Hill's next mayor, when elected, when I'm sitting at city council, I think I bring a multitude of voices that have been left out. And if you look at who's supporting these campaigns and who these campaigns are speaking to, my voice has been a representation of those of the working class, those who don't have the opportunity to run a big time business. The men and women that I represent are the ones that's going to work and possibly swing and shift just as I do. And if you look at the donors who supported these campaigns, and when you look at my donation list, you see people that's donating $10, $15 who don't have $1,000 to donate, like some of these other campaigns have been able to bring in. And when you talk about representing special interest group, when people are donating those kind of funds, they're going to expect something in return for it. And I think for all too long, that has been the voice of this community. I think we've resulted to allowing money to be the voice of this community versus the working class people who have sweat on their brow each and every day and who are worried about utility bills, who are worried about the rising housing costs in the community, worried about our rising crime as well. So the instant credibility, the instant voice of someone who has my background, who grew up in a troubled area, who knows how to get in and labor and pull myself up by my bootstraps, as well as the educational system here in Rock Hill, utilizing all of our high schools, our local technical school, as well as Clinton Junior College, as well as Winthrop University. So just bringing a multitude of voices to the table that have been left out for the last 30 years and having their voices heard. And we won't have to just always have these focus groups when we want to do a project. These voices will already be at the table for the next 4 years.
All right, thank you. We're going to move to the next question, and our order will be Ishmael Lowry, Bump Roddy, and John Geddes. Do you believe that it's harder for people with disabilities to register to vote and or cast a ballot than others? Explain. If yes, how would you work to overcome these obstacles?
I always like to use the word or the term people with different abilities. I don't think that people with different abilities are disabled. I worked as a customer service manager when I was a teenager, and I had a good friend named Robert, and yeah, he had a different ability. However, everything we asked Robert to do, he was able to do it with a smile. And so I don't believe that people with different abilities cannot register to vote or vote. I believe they should. However, I do believe that there should be advocates as well for people with different abilities. Also, to be able to stand up for those that are not being treated well. And so that's important for advocates to stand up. And I believe in our workforce, there should be workforce advocates for people with different abilities as well. I think in our jobs, every job, there needs to be a job set aside for that, especially with the city. And so to answer your question in short, no, I do believe that, or you believe that people with different abilities have the ability to vote and to register to vote as well.
All right, thank you. Do you believe it's harder for people with disabilities to register to vote and or cast a ballot than others? Explain. If yes, how would you work to overcome these obstacles? And this goes to Bump Roddy.
Thank you, and great question. I've had the pleasure of working with the York County Voters Registration, Wanda Hempill. I've had the fortune to be able to work with what we now call Max Abilities, where we changed the name from the Board of Disabilities to Max Abilities. And I think we're seeing more people who are challenged enter the workforce. I think we've seen more people, more companies realize the talents that they can pull from these individuals. And I do think there are some obstacles, but we have a very well-trained staff at York County, and people who run our polls on election day, and people who work at our voter registration to be able to register people to vote, as well as help them and assist them when they do come out to participate in the voting process. I think it's very important that their voices are heard, because so much can be had from our governmental services that assist people with what you call a disability. So I do think there's a lot of support in this community. I know the city of Rock Hill used to host the Special Olympics here in Rock Hill for people with disabilities. That was a wonderful event, and so many people enjoy coming out and supporting these types of events, because these are our loved ones, these are our family members, these are our next door neighbors, and in some cases these are our coworkers, and they should have every right and all access that should be granted to them to participate in the voting process. Obviously, there may be some challenges when they're going online to register online, but I can assure you, if they were to walk into the York County Voter Registration Office, we have capable and competent people that's willing to assist them to make that registration process a lot easier than most people would imagine.
Okay, thank you, sir. And John Geddes, do you believe it's harder for people with disabilities to register to vote or to cast a ballot than others? Explain. If yes, how would you work to overcome these obstacles?
Well, I'll answer the question as direct as I can. The elections process in Rock Hill is not run by the city of Rock Hill. It's actually run by the county of York. The city pays a fee each year to the county, or each election year to the county, to run the operations. And the county staff does a great job, no question about it. As a result, I'm not absolutely sure if there's data that shows that it's harder for someone with disabilities to register to vote or to vote. I assume that it is because most everything in life is harder for someone with a disability than someone without. So really the question becomes, assuming that that is an issue, how do we solve that? And I think the main thing we could do that we're not doing now is for the county to recognize that a huge percentage of the people who live in York County live on this side of York County, live in the city of Rock Hill, live in the town of Fort Mill and in the unincorporated area around it. But the only place you can go to register to vote is in York. So if you are disabled and you have trouble with transportation, you don't have a way to get to York without calling a demand response bus system for them to pick you up, take you, and then come back and pick you up at the location to register and come back, unless you do it by mail, of course. But by mail, you still got to deal with getting it in, getting it back out, the registration in and back out, and that's problematic and troublesome. So I think one way to solve the issues that are out there is the county invest not just in elections, but in so many other things so that the people in Rock Hill have easier access to county provided services, which presently don't exist. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to move to the next question. And this is one I probably won't have to repeat. The order for the questioning will be Bump Roddy, John Geddes, and Ishmael Lowry. What is your position on mask mandates? Explain. What is your position on mask mandates? And Bump Roddy, you'll be first.
Thank you. As one of the first local elected officials to ask York County to implement a mask mandate last year, which was unsuccessful on my part, only to turn around a few months later and contract COVID and have to be hospitalized for 7 days and become 1 liter of oxygen away from being put on a ventilator. I do think masks help curb the spread of COVID-19. I wish more people would have considered wearing a mask, but obviously it's a personal choice. And like I've stated earlier, I commend the city of Rock Hill who was able to put a mask mandate in place. And I think as a result of that, it ultimately helped us start to flatten the curve as much as possible. And it's still a personal choice. I don't think it's always going to be left up to local government. I do think, but when it comes to public health, I would have loved to have seen York County implement a mask ordinance as well, along with the city of Rock Hill, along with the city of Fort Mill, York, Antigua, Cay, and Clover as well. And because we're seeing now COVID come back around, and if we can do anything to help slow the spread, curb the spread, and keep people out of hospitals, I think if a mask will result in keeping a family from having a funeral, if a mask will keep a family from having to visit a loved one in the hospital on a ventilator, then I would be all for a mask mandate. Again, because I was so close to death because so many people chose not to wear a mask. And I think that ultimately caused me to become sick and almost fall deathly ill. So yes, if the numbers continue to rise, I do think there would be a need for a mask ordinance if people are not properly vaccinated.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to it with the position on mask mandates. Let's go to John Geddes on that.
Thank you. So back in early July, the city of Rock Hill passed an emergency ordinance to create a face covering ordinance, a mask mandate, if you will. That was an ordinance that was allowed because the governor of South Carolina declared a state of emergency in South Carolina that empowered local governments to make decisions in that regard. And we kept that face covering ordinance in effect until the 1st of March, when that statewide emergency ordinance was in effect by its language repealed, in my opinion. Now, I think it's important that we all also step back in time and look at where we were last July. We didn't know that there would be a vaccine available some 6 months later. We didn't know what that vaccine might do, where it might get us. All we knew is that this coronavirus that had closed down schools for a period of time, closed down a lot of businesses, and then by the governor's order, shut restaurants down, decreased the seating capacity in restaurants, and made it so that we were all worried about where we were going to end up as a community and as a state. So that face covering ordinance was really the only tool we had at the time to try to limit the impact of this coronavirus on the people of our community, especially those over age 65, who we were all, according to the data being given, most susceptible to not just getting sick, but dying. And so we kept that in place. And then in January, our community, under my leadership, created a vaccination clinic. We put over 50,000 shots in people's arms in over 59 days. Vaccines are much more effective than a mask ordinance. And we have vaccines that are readily available now that we did not have in July. And I think it is incumbent upon us all to look into a vaccine and get a vaccine, not only to save ourselves, but to save our family from going through some very difficult times as a result. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now, Mr. Lowry, what's your position on mask mandates?
Thank you. I will start off by saying this. I am not anti-mask, nor am I anti-vaccine. I am pro-freedom. I do not believe in mandates, one-size-fits-all mandates regarding masks. And I want to finish the rest of my time reading a letter from a parent in the area. And it starts off by saying, "Good evening, my 9-year-old daughter has Down syndrome. And my wife and I are completely against all children, whether they have special needs or not, wearing masks or being vaccinated for this virus. That being said, the reasons we are completely against our daughter wearing a mask are as follows. A mask hinders her ability to breathe, as she does not have the same facial bone structure as individuals without Down syndrome. Her sinus individuals with syndrome. This can lead to more sinus infections, stuffy nose, and overall difficulty breathing for her. Another issue with regards to her facial bone structure is that she lacks a bridge on her nose as compared to individuals without Down syndrome. This causes the mask to sit even more closely to her face, ultimately reducing airflow and oxygen. Children and individuals with Down syndrome do not have as much muscle control over their tongue, so their tongues protrude out of their mouth most of the time. This leads to a mask become extremely wet and leads to the mask sticking more to her mouth and face, which ultimately reduces airflow, oxygen, and drastically increases the chance of bacteria growing on the mask. The mask is extremely distracting to her, which leads her to focus more time and energy on the mask than what she's supposed to be learning in school or what the teacher is trying to teach her. She has an extremely difficult time through mask, nor is she able to hear clearly what other people are wearing a mask are saying. It makes her speech therapy sessions extremely difficult, which leads to delay in making progress in her speech. She mentally does not comprehend about what the mask is for or why she is wearing it. Overall, masks have no definitive evidence of working or providing protection. Therefore, I do not support a one-size-fits-all mask mandate.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lowry. Next question. Please present your views on affordable housing in Rock Hill. Our order is Mr. Geddes, Mr. Lowry, and Mr. Roddy. So, Mr. Geddes, please present your views on affordable housing in Rock Hill.
Well, affordable housing in Rock Hill is like affordable housing everywhere else. There's not enough of it. So the question is, what does a mayor do to try to get us out from under the wrong side of a curve? In my administration, what we have done is created an ordinance, the only one in South Carolina of which I'm aware, that makes any developers looking to come into the city of Rock Hill who wish to buy city property or seek city incentives to set aside a certain number of their units for workforce housing or affordable housing. Likewise, we have a very robust neighborhood services department and housing development corporation that are continuing to build houses both for ownership and for rentals for those that qualify under the affordable housing or workforce housing parameters. And we have the housing authority that also does this. So we've got a lot of irons in the fire, if you will. But what I'm most proud of is our efforts now to take the growth that we're seeing come to Rock Hill and extrapolate that in order to create a funding source for more workforce and affordable housing in our community than ever before. Tonight at our planning commission, there are 23 properties being considered for annexation into the city that are on the south side of Rock Hill, neighboring I-77. Those properties are included in a yet created, but the process has been started, tax increment district to put over $225 million of public infrastructure on the south side. It can't be spent on the other sides of town. Of that, over $35 million is earmarked for affordable and workforce housing. The difference between me and the other candidates is I'm not talking about problems, I'm solving them.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Lowry, please present your views on affordable housing in Rock Hill.
Absolutely. So when it comes to affordable housing and you talk about the TIF district, my concern with that is that will the value of the area outgrow or outpace the ability for people to actually afford it? When you talk about TIFs, it raises the value slowly over time. I believe when it comes to affordable housing, which is a national issue, there's no quick or easy fix to it. I believe in community land trust. And so prior, I was talking about these leagues, these neighborhood leagues that consist of, residents. You talk about law enforcement, a city representative, a person from a home builder that's in the area. These leagues are nonprofits. These community land trusts will be housed under these leagues. And so that way, the land is owned by the league and they at a discounted rate, low income to a low income family or family need. And if that family happens to move, they'll sell it to another family that is in need or back to that community land trust. Therefore, you won't have that the value just to the point where people cannot. I think that is a really good model. And what I love about that model is that it is community led, community driven. As a conservative, I believe in limited government. I don't believe that government needs to have their hand in every single thing. I believe that our community and our citizens are capable enough to do something along these lines. That's what I would like to see as a viable option in our housing issue.
All right, thank you so much. And Bump Roddy, your response to views on affordable housing in Rock Hill.
Yes, it's one thing to say you have a plan to implement to secure a funding source that has yet to be finalized, has yet to be, but was also voted down by several entities thus far. The city has missed the ball or dropped the ball on multiple occasions to enter into affordable housing, which we call now workforce housing for families who make a lower income than the median income for the area. The city has for years neglected a lot of these areas where affordable houses can be built. They've neglected working with local developers to develop a course or plan of action to address it. But allowing developers to come into our city and build 200 and 300 and for a total of about 1,200 units going in downtown, and to only designate 1 or 2% of those apartment units for affordable housing is a slap in the face to the affordable housing plan. I think we have to be much more aggressive. We have to continue to purchase land, continue to offer it to developers to build our units, not be a part of their units, but build our units and hold them to a requirement to offer these rents, offer these sale prices at or below obviously market value, because market value here in the city of Rock Hill and York County has skyrocketed to where affordable is no longer affordable. Just 4 years ago, when the current mayor took office, this was an issue. 4 years later, we have yet to even make a dent in it. We've only made a dent into the promises that were made about affordable housing. We've only heard affordable housing come up during this campaign. So we have to put our money where our mouth is. And if you follow the money, our current mayor has not made any kind of strides or scrimps in the affordable housing, but obviously that's not where his support comes from, the people who need affordable housing.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to the next question. How would you currently describe the interactions between law enforcement and community members, especially those with mental illness? And this will be Mr. Lowry, Bump Roddy, and then John Geddes.
So as far as law enforcement and community, yeah, it's definitely strained there. And I believe it comes from the understaffing of our police force. We are understaffed as far as our patrol officers, and that should not be a secret. That should be told. And there should be more, I would say, efforts or more robust efforts done as far as on the recruiting front behind our recruiters that are working hard. I advocate for community policing. community policing is positive interactions, partners, as well as problem solving. And so in order for our officers to be able to engage with our citizens manner, they cannot be going from call to call to call without any time in between, and that's what's happening. And so you take any job or any position where you are understaffed, the effects of it is that you don't connect with the people as much as you could. And so that's what's happening. And we definitely need to improve enough to our officers and the relation with our citizens. And I know it can be done, and I know it can be better. However, we have to take a deep look at that.
All right, thank you very much. And let's move on to our next candidate, Bump Roddy. How would you describe the interactions between law enforcement and community members, especially those with mental illness?
Well, being one of the longest serving York County Council members, I've had the pleasure of being a member of the National Association of Counties Justice and Public Safety Steering Committee for the last several years. And one of our goals during my tenure there has been to address the mental illness component with law enforcement. And one of the things that came out of it, and I'm so proud of, and I support it locally, was a mental health court. You know, this is where we're not treating mentally ill citizens like criminals, because they are mentally ill. And we have a court here that was established under our probate judge. She handles that, and it recognizes those mental illness cases that should be kept out of criminal court, that should be kept out of our legal and judicial system. So obviously that component here in York County has been recognized, as well as across the state and the country. And we do have to do a better job of strengthening our relationship with law enforcement, with every citizen, not just the mentally ill, but our everyday citizens who have run-ins with our law enforcement, who may or may not be treated with the utmost respect. And the relationship has to be strengthened on both sides. I think I'm the candidate in this race that can speak to our trouble areas and speak directly from the heart, because I'm from some of these areas where we're seeing high crime rate, high drug rate, mental illness going untreated. So I know the disadvantages that exist, and I'm willing to work hand in hand with Chief Watts to get into some of these communities and work hand in hand with him and be that voice that will bridge that gap between law enforcement and the citizens, and vice versa, between the citizens and law enforcement. So I think I'm that candidate that represents both sides, and I can play that dual role and have those dual responsibilities to strengthen that bond with our community.
All right, thank you. And John Geddes, how would you currently describe interactions between law enforcement and community members, especially those with mental illness?
Well, I think we've got a strong relationship between our police officers and our community in Rock Hill. They're very valued, the police officers, and they do a great job. Chief Watts is, in my opinion, a wonderful chief. And when I speak in front of the police officers, when we're swearing in new recruits, which it seems to be every other week these days and has been for my 4 years here, I tell the police officers, president and the chief, that I'm so fortunate that I'm not like a lot of mayors, that I don't worry about our police department as much as many other mayors have to. And that's because we've got a great group of police officers who've been there for a long time, and they're CALEA certified, which is only, I think all the police forces in the United States of America, only 4%, and I may be wrong on that percentage, are CALEA certified, which means they go through a lot more training than most. It means that we also know how to de-escalate situations, which usually are including those with mental illness. We also know that there's a continuum of care, so to speak, how you address certain issues based upon the person you're working with at that time in your duties. As mayor, we've increased pay for our police officers. We've increased pay previously a few years ago to make sure that the crunch that happens in an organizational ladder was lessened. That helped a lot of our supervisory police officers. And then just a few months ago, we increased pay for all of our uniformed officers because they are doing such a good job. I've been very involved with our police force in my term as mayor. I haven't seen any other candidates at the policemen's fundraisers or at the Worthy Boys and Girls Camp giving out medals to our youth that work at this camp with our police officers. Yes, We have a camp every summer so that those kids that have grown up without can go to camp for a week that the police pay for through their fundraising and strengthen the relationships within the community. We do a lot of great things here in Rock Hill. I'm very proud of our police officers. And what I think my job is as mayor is to pull the whole community together to the center so that their job is easier.
All right, thank you very much. Let's move to the next question. And our order for responding to this question will be Mr. Roddy, Mr. Geddes, and Mr. Lowry. What would you do to address Rock Hill's food desert, specifically in downtown Saluda corridor?
We've been fighting for years and years and years to get some development on the south side of Rock Hill. We had an opportunity when the AME Zion Church actually purchased the old grocery store, which was three guys. There was a shopping plaza there with a drugstore, dry cleaners, and several other businesses that located there when I was a kid. We were hoping that that location would return back to the prominence of having a grocery store. And a food desert is obviously an issue for the south side. We do have another prime location, the former Winn-Dixie building that sits on the corner of Heckle and Saluda. I think we have to make sure that we actively recruit grocers to locate on this side of town. We have the rooftops. We have the median income has increased dramatically over the last 7 to 10 years. So there's definitely the resources available for an anchor store to come in back at that location. We just have to make sure that we're pushing the south side when it comes to recruiting and offering incentives to businesses to locate here. But it hasn't been the focus of the current administration nor the previous administration. But we have to start electing people that will push and fight for things that the community needs, and not just the political issues come political time when you're just dangling promises and speculation of what can be done. Put the money where the mouth is, push the south side, not just when you want to use county funds, school district funds. Designate some portions of our city budget to actively recruit, make it worthwhile for a grocer to locate on the south side, and eliminate the food desert.
All right. Let's go on to our next candidate, John Geddes. What would you do to address Rock Hill's food desert, specifically in downtown Saluda corridor?
Well, we're working on it now. That's this TIF district that I've mentioned a few times tonight. It's not a hope and a dream. It's already been created. The city has created, or will go to second reading to create that TIF district. And the county is going to have to decide whether they're going to be all talk like they have been for the 10 years Mr. Roddy's been there, or going to get to action on the south side. That's their choice. It's not mine to make for them. The way that TIF district will work is the property taxes from these properties on I-77 will create a funding stream to help pay for the public infrastructure necessary to see development on the south side. It hasn't happened to date. We haven't had the opportunity to do that. We do now because we have an economy that's booming thanks to the many things we've been doing over the last 4 years, including reaching out to and landing the Carolina Panthers corporate headquarters. This TIF district is there. It's not going anywhere. We know that we'll have at least the city's contribution of taxes going to make these things happen. And the question is, will Mr. Roddy put his money where his mouth is? That's where we stand on that. And we can use those TIF monies to build the public infrastructure around a grocery store, if you will, so that the developer, the builder of the grocery store doesn't have to pay for the parking lot or the curb and gutter. The people of Rock Hill will do that through the property taxes of that developer that he'll create on the private side to lessen the cost of the overall project. That's how a TIF district works. It's worked fabulous for downtown Rock Hill that Mr. Roddy supported. It worked fabulous for the Carolina Panthers, or will, that Mr. Roddy supported. It's worked all over downtown, and I look for it to work very well for the south side of town, but it will take the county coming to the table with more than talk.
Right, thank you. And Mr. Lowry, as far as addressing Rock Hill's food desert, specifically in downtown Saluda corridor.
Yeah, I think we first need just start off by talking to the citizens and asking what exactly they want for that area when it comes to addressing this food desert issue. And I believe the majority of the county is considered a food desert. What a wonderful way it would be for the city and the county to come together for something like this, where I know that the relationship is strained, but I think we have to put those things aside for the people and for food. That is the basic necessity as being human. And so if we can't put those differences, that's simply not good. One thing that is near dear to me is farming. And so we have a pretty good farming community on the outskirts of this area when we're talking about Chester, York, Clover. How about we find ways to set up farmer markets on the south side in the Saluda area? I think that's very important for people, not just to have access to food, but have access to fresh food, good food. That's important, not just for adults, for the children. Our children, it's very known that they don't have a good diet. It does affect them cognitively. It affects heart health. And it affects them how they are actually able to operate in our schools. And so it all is a cycle. And if we could figure out how, we already have a farmer's market that I've been a part of with my business for about 3 years now, and it is over near Oakland. How great would it be to maybe not necessarily relocate that, but make a more central location for this market for people to get fresh food? Because many times people cannot make the travel across town. And so we have to figure out ways to bring these fresh
All right, thank you. We have one more question. Let's see. I'm sorry, Bump Roddy, you need to respond to this question as far as job opportunities. So sorry.
Job opportunities, we haven't had that question.
Oh, I'm
Was-
sorry. The
No,
food,
we're right.
the food deserts.
He
Everyone
did.
had, okay, everyone had an opportunity to speak. My mistake. All right, let's move to the next question. How would you work to increase job opportunities in the Rock Hill area, including the disabled community? This is our last questions, and we will move after that. After you've responded to this question, we'll move into closing statements. So it'll be Mr. Geddes, Mr. Lowry, and Mr. Roddy. Crease, how would you work to increase job opportunities in the Rock Hill area, including disabled community?
Well, we've been doing that for the last 4 years. We've not raised property taxes in those 4 years. We have cut electric rates for the first time in my lifetime. We have worked with our business community to create more jobs. I've been to more ribbon cuttings at our business parks with a rival British company coming that's building electric buses, Dirt Environmental, another company from Canada bringing jobs, Southland up at the Aspen Business Park, and one job opening after another in Rock Hill. We have not seen a need for, I mean, we always have a need for more jobs, but we are being very successful in bringing jobs to Rock Hill and making sure that the existing businesses that are here are enlarging the work they do. One thing I'm very proud of as mayor is helping make Miracle Park a reality. Miracle Park is a park for all the people of Rock Hill, despite your ability. Now, it's not a park for those with special needs. It is a park for all, such that for the first time, all people, regardless of your ability, have a place to play. Phase 3 of that is to create a cafe or marketplace that will be run by our disabled community, by people with special needs. That's something that I'm very proud of. It's one element of what we've done. And that's an $8 million project when all is said and done, that a group of our community have gone out and raised these funds. The city of Rock Hill participated in that, as well as Winthrop University and many other businesses that really brought a lot of money to the table to make this happen, including David and Nicole Tepper from the Carolina Panthers. We have to do more. And the way we do that is we build an inclusive community. And I think what anyone that has watched my tenure as mayor will agree to is we are a much more inclusive community than we have ever been in our lifetimes. And I look forward to continuing that and seeing things happen so that all of the people of Rock Hill get a chance to do anything and everything they wish.
Mr. Lowry, How will you work to increase job opportunities in the Rock Hill area, including the disabled community?
Absolutely. We have to start with training. And I think you have to start also with providing inclusion training, hire inclusion directors, people be able to work with people with different abilities. And when we have the wonderful opportunities, wonderful meetings with the ATC, Applied Technology Center. There you can learn so many different skills from welding to plumbing to information technology to design, engineering work, woodworking, things that one can learn and use. And I think beginning that pipeline, it's about creating pipelines. I believe at the Economic Development Center, we have a workforce development coordinator. So, and I believe they work with the ATC. And we can work with York Tech and build these bridges and maintain these bridges and create these pipelines for individuals with different abilities to be able to funnel through. And we can check and watch and observe their progress as well to let them know that they are not alone. And so I believe with the city, yes, having an inclusion director or coordinator is very important, as well as encouraging companies that are coming to the area to have inclusion director coordinators. So yes, there is some wonderful work being done with Miracle Park, and my wife and I took our daughter out there actually a few times since opening, and I cannot wait to see the jobs that they're able to offer people with different abilities. It's going to be wonderful, and it's going to be a great thing for everyone. And so yes.
All right.
Pipeline.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's go to Bump Roddy. How do we increase job opportunities in the Rock Hill area, including the disabled community?
First off, I'd like to take a look at how our city is hiring individuals with disabilities, how our city is hiring people that's been disenfranchised, how our city is hiring people of color. I think one way to increase job opportunities is right here at home with the organization that I'm fit to run, and making sure that our directors and our HR department realizes that we must be more inclusive of individuals with disabilities. We must be inclusive of more people of color. We must be inclusive of more people with different backgrounds that don't look like us, that don't live in our communities, that don't go to our churches. We have to be mindful of the opportunities that we're foregoing when we're leaving people out of the job market. You know, we hear about the different opportunities that's coming here, and people are taking credit for landing and doing certain things as an individual, but these are collective efforts that have been brought to the city of Rock Hill, not just by one individual. City council takes these votes. City council leans on York County. City council leans on the Rock Hill School District. So it's very disingenuous for people to get up here and say that I have created, I have done, when it's a collective effort. And if this was a one-man show, we'd be running for king, but we're running for mayor. And the mayor is definitely the person or the individual that has to work with the totality of the community to bridge those gaps, to bring everyone together. And so I make very pointed reference to making sure that we're not in this to be self-serving. We're in this for the community's sake, and to continue to bridge these gaps, as well as foster these relationships with people of disabilities, as well as people who are challenged otherwise.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Roddy. It's time for our 60-second closing statements. We'll go in reverse order from the opening statements with Bump Roddy first. These are your closing statements, your positions, and your viewpoints, a summary of those. You have 60 seconds.
First, I want to say the city of Rock Hill touts that it hasn't raised property taxes since 2006. Well, the city has increased in property taxes over 2019 to 2020. So in 2020, you definitely saw a city increase on your property tax. So that's a fact check for our current mayor. And we're still working to work through some challenges of securing the funding source. We take great pride in saying we're bringing the Carolina Panthers here. Well, let's finish the deal. Go out and borrow the $225 million, put this thing to rest, so the Panthers can be rest assured that they're on solid ground when it comes to support out of our York County and Rock Hill in the Rock Hill School District. And I hate to see us dangling phantom projects out and saying that we have a funding source, a funding mechanism, when two of the three that has to come to the table has not signed on because the language is not there. The projects are not there for the South Side tip. We took a vote last night that said we're not all in with the city of Rock Hill on this one until we're able to get solid language that assures the South Side that those $225 million will be pumped into this.
Okay, we need to stop. Thank you. Let's move to Mr. Lowry as far as a closing 60-second statement.
Yes, so I'm 30 years old and I am a husband, father, small business, and I understand how to delegate. I understand that there are so many people that are working in the city that are smarter than I am, and I want to lean on them as well. And so it's not a one team, it's a team aspect. And so, I believe that city is a wonderful city and it is growing. However, we grow responsibly. We need to grow and make sure our culture is playful, that we support our laws, get behind for our well, and be transparent when it comes to our budget and understanding how that works. We're at, I believe, $500 million, around $500 million but $300 million is tied to a revenue source, and we need to know and understand how that works in their city government. I am 30 years old. The median age or an average age of a citizen is 35 years old here in Rock Hill. Can be a mayor that will grow with our citizens and with having people representing our citizens here in Rock Hill.
All right, let's go on to Mr. Geddes and 60-second closing.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I first want to thank the League of Women Voters and Disability Rights South Carolina for putting on this forum, giving us a chance to show the people that are watching this forum, hopefully, that there's a distinct difference between their existing mayor who is produced, working with his city council as he does all day long, and those that are coming in talking about how things could be different or not, and not having a plan, just taking shots. The city of Rock Hill is not borrowing money for the Carolina Panthers. That's just a misstatement of fact. The city of Rock Hill is making everything that we can do to become a more inclusive city. And we know that because we see the outcomes that are coming from that. Go on the city's website through their transparency /. You can get any information you wish to have on anything, and you can call me or stop me. We work through all our problems. And my biggest strength is I bring people to the table, find an answer, and we proceed to bringing it to conclusion. We'll do that on that TIF district because it's best for all.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate our three candidates who have expressed their opinions tonight, differing viewpoints and different perspectives. Thank you for taking the time to hear the candidates. Be sure to get out and vote on October 19th. Absentee voting begins on September 20th. If you vote absentee, be sure that all must be returned by 7 p.m. on October 19th. Refer to scvotes.org for future election information. You can also update registration, find your polling place, and learn about any COVID-related voting changes. We encourage you to study the issues carefully, learn about the positions of each candidate, and vote for the candidates of your choice on October 19th. We are appreciative of our co-sponsors, League of Women Voters of York County and Disability Rights South Carolina. Many thanks to our candidates. Please give them a warm virtual round of applause.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.